car, it ticks a lot of boxes. I enjoy it so much. The new BMW M2. And why might this be so important? Well, this might be the last ever petrol M model. The ones that are planned for the future officially are fully electric or hybrid ones. And on top of that, it might also be the last manual gearbox that you can get in an M-car. Starting off in the rain with these Michelin Pilot Sport 2 tires. They're not really made for wet conditions. But when it dries up and you get to warm them up a little, they get sticky and nice. And this car, it really needs that grip, I can tell you. But you know, it feels like a very grown-up car because it got the bits and pieces from the BMW M4, M3, and that the chassis is a bit stretched. It feels like a bigger car. It's roomier inside, and it's very subtle and tender as you drive along, and comfort and everything in automatic. It's very comfortable, and it's quiet. It's a quiet cabin. And there's also something about that feeling because it's rather heavy, 1,730 kilos. Now that's a lot for a car of this size, but when you push on in this car, it feels a lot quicker than those claimed 4.1 seconds. It appears to be a bigger BMW. It feels like you're sitting in a much bigger BMW than an M2. And that maturity of it that has grown with it, I think it's fine, because you can sense that there is a cheeky one underneath here. Like the old one, the previous generation M2 with 410 horsepower, that was the competition model. Then there was the CS, the harder track version with 450 horsepower. Well, super twitchy, very cool, fast, and really engaging car. A car that really set the tone of this is what you want, this is what you need, and you don't need to spend that much money to get that real great BMW feeling. And as you step into this car, you want to find these different spots. It's just a joy to start look at. I like the design of this car. I think it has great proportions, and it really blossoms this strength of M-power in all its design. This big, bulky, muscular structures all over. Carbon fiber roof to save some weight and also look a bit sportier. And this sandwood blue color, I think that's the choice. Maybe red or some bright color like white. But this one, it's extra elegant. It more clearly portrays the design. The black might look cool on this car, but it hides it a bit and it makes it a bit more discreet. Some might like that, but I don't. I like this one. It should be expressive in all its glory because it shouldn't be ashamed of itself by being an entrance M model. And it doesn't in this color. It really bursts with power and strength. The black elements goes extremely well together with the color. From the front with this grille that is a bit more aggressively designed compared to the 240 X-Drive, which is a bit more subtle, a bit more elegant, a bit more kind. And also the intakes, this big mouth down here, makes it look really hungry. Black polished rims, 19 at the front, 20-inch at the back. The door handles, which are very nicely integrated. And also in profile, the bonnet feels a bit longer and it feels a bit more stretched out. The wheelbase is a bit longer. They get some bits and pieces from the M4, so it's a bit more grown up. So strong attributes, the wheel arches, really big. When you see them in the rear view mirrors, it's almost like a wing that is sticking out. And as it stretches back to that elegant little lip, that little spoiler on the back. Not too much, just a little touch. And these smoked out taillights, they pop out a bit and many people don't like them, but I think they have something. They look a bit different compared to the other BMWs. And I think it's bold sometimes that you do something that you might find, well, maybe not the most beautiful, but let's do it. It gives it a good stance. And it gives people something to talk about. You know, personal taste. It's always up to discussion. And the back is also a bit more square, but very strong and very wide. So the stance, when you come up behind it, well, it looks like a pure M-car, and it should. That's what you want to feel and see when you see a BMW from the rear. And also that diffuser with these big tailpipes, that is very significant to a BMW M-car. This badge, which is a bit nostalgic, looks a bit like the olden emblems on the BMWs. And of course, talking about an M-car, you talk about power. Power from this S58 straight 6-cylinder engine that sits in the M4 and the M3, and also the X6 and the X4M competition has really proven itself. You get 510 horsepower in these cars. In this one, it's a bit detuned, 460 horsepower, but 550 Newton meters, and it spools up really quickly. So it's a very powerful, great engine that fits this car perfectly. Like the bigger M4, this M2, it uses the same axle hardware from the M division that has been really proven. It's a widened, rigid-mounted multi-link axle at the rear, lightened and stiffened struts at the front, but compared to the M4, this is only rear-wheel drive without the ability to kick in four-wheel drive like you can do in the M4 and the M3 competition. But you feel like you sit in a proper M-car. But driving on the motorway like this, it's very quiet, even though it sits on rather big tires. So it's very well-stuffed cabin, it's very isolated. So that might be part of some of that extra gained weight. But you can still feel that there is some agility in this car. The steering is very immediate, it's very sharp. They've upgraded the steering, so it really wants to turn in quick, and it's very precise. It's almost a bit too precise, because when running over some uneven surface, the car judders a little, so it feels a little worried. And of course, always when you set it on a track, well, then you will feel what it's all about. The inline 6-cylinder engine, it comes from the BMW M3 M4. It's detuned, but it gives 460 horsepower, so 10 horsepower more than the previous generation M2 CS. And 50 horsepower more than the M2 competition. So it's powerful. It spools up really, really quick. It's strong, 550 Newton meters, so 0 to 100 in 4.1 seconds. So I tend to use comfort in steering, but I think that the Sport has become better. Before it was a bit numb. This one is rather okay, but I still keep it in comfort. And then we got Sport, and the engine and chassis is in Sport Plus. All the traction off. You want to feel how this whole chassis and its character, in its nature of driving, really feels. So I keep it there. But focus on top. Those 4 big exhaust pipes, they gurgle a bit. They sound really good. You can just let off like this. Sounds good. So there's an 8-speed automatic gearbox in this one, and you can get that manual gearbox as well for 5,700 Swedish crowns extra. And these both transmissions, they drive through an active M-locking rear differential. Powerful brakes, brake-by-wire system, 6 piston calipers with 15-inch rotors live at the front, while you get single piston calipers and 14.6 inches discs at the rear. That's standard. And you can also set this in sport or comfort, depending on how comfortable you want them to be or how grabby you want them to be. But the weight has gone up a bit. It's not a very light car. It weighs 730 kilos. The previous generation, it weighed about 1,625 to 1,650, depending on what type of transmission you got. And the previous one without the competition package, well, that weighed 1,570 kilos. So it's a bit more hefty there on the scale. The trunk space is all right. You get 390 liters, but this is a 2+2, so you can throw some stuff back in the rear seats if you want to do that. And the starting price for the car here in Sweden is 770,400 Swedish crowns. Also programmed into this one, when you set the gear changes to its highest ferocious setting, it gives a little bounce, a little kick, a little judder to make it feel a bit more sporty. That is okay, because it lifts the feeling when you're driving actively. I like that. I guess it's programmed. It's not a double clutch gearbox. So, but the downshifts, yeah, they're not as quick. But this M active slip differential, what you can do with that one is you can set it up to 10 steps of M traction. So, you know, when drifting, you can become a drift master. If you want to dial it down, you start from a little higher and then you just tune it down. So you can get more control out of this car in that way. And when you drive off like this and in the wet, well, you can set it to a different type of stages. So there is a leash that always catches you if you run out of control. And the sound is, as always, it sounds good. It's a bit dampened, and I think it might be enhanced a bit through the speaker system here, but that doesn't matter, you know. That's part of the time now. You get these synthetic sounds, but it's a very good engine, this one. It's a very, very good engine. You know, you can really feel that those consecutive corners that you took, they were quick. You can really feel how it goes in very sharp. This upgraded steering, it is really, really good. If you step into this one from the previous generation M2 or the 2 series, you find it a lot roomier, a bit more mature, and the cabin feels a bit more relaxed and a bit more like a big coupe. The thought might strike you like, it's heavier. I don't want a bigger one. I want this M2 that is small and really, really nimble, not a big, hefty coupe. But don't be fooled, because you can dig out that BMW cheekiness in this car. But at the same time, you can just kick back, relax, and have a bit more of a grand tourer, because it is really, really comfortable to be riding in for longer journeys as well. Because when you're driving comfort, efficient, and having all these modes set in comfort, and even so in sport, it's very relaxed and it's very isolated. So it's a very quiet, relaxed cabin. And I really like that, because you want to go hard, do it, and then you just want to relax and get your energy back. Well, it can really do that. The big, strong, thick M steering wheel, they're always cool. In my taste, they're a bit too thick. Physical buttons here, carbon fiber, and some new paddle shifters here. They're also carbon fiber. Get some friction here at the back when driving, so they're not that slippery. The M1 and the M2 buttons here for quick configuration of your settings. Also some M colors here in the side panel. Buttons on this glossy panel. The gear shifter, which is cool. You get the settings for that ferocious level. 1 to 3 steps of how hard you want it to shift gears. You can get those carbon bucket seats. When I tried them out, I thought that they were really good in the BMW M4. They were okay, but they are hard. So when you go for longer, and I mean that this car works for that, because it's a bit more mature, it's a bit bigger. So in that GT car sense, those seats here are just sporty enough, but they are a lot more comfortable. So I think you should just stick to them. And of course they look good to look at. Blue and red, all these M attributes, and the M2 that lights up in the headrest. Just get the volume knob here, changing track or radio station, defroster, and rear window heat. This is very beautiful. This 12.3, 14.9 inch screen that almost flows in here. So a lot of the functions are placed in here. The climate controls, you get into this one, but it goes rather quick, so it's not such a hassle to change. You need to learn it, as in every other car, but as you get it going, it works, and you quickly get to the menus. And it's easy to navigate in through to all the apps here as well. So this is the 8.0 operating system, or 8.0 iDrive system, if you want to call it that. And it works well. It's very quick. You can choose how you want to do it, if you want to be touching it and swiping it here, or if you want to do it through this scrolling wheel here. Go back, home, map. So you get into it very quickly, and it's very responsive. So I like it. I think it's been cleaned up a bit, because they were a bit fuzzy in the beginning. It's a quick, responsive screen, and then set up for all of this sport, comfort, efficient. A lot of apps. You can also get all these types of widgets that you want to put in here. You get a head-up display as you drive along, very clearly displayed there. And you can change the cluster or the display in front of you if you go in road, sport, or track mode. And there are so many settings that you can set for this car. Analyze your drift, so you can set that drift level from 0 to 10 steps. So there's always a leash or security that really grabs you if you get it out of control. So you can gradually learn this car and how it behaves. It's a technical, great sports car in that way. But if you're familiar to BMW, well, you won't get lost in here. It's very well laid out, and the quality and the materials are really up there. But something that I find with these outlets, these ventilation outlets on the left side and the right side. They feel a bit flimsy, whilst in the middle they have some more resistance. That's strange. Now when you get into track mode, well, you need to be stationary to set it on. You get the bars of the tires, you get this meter here for the revs, big number for your gear changes, what gear you're in, and the speedometer. So everything is very track focused, and this screen turns off. So there's nothing that interferes or that bothers you when driving. But this feels like it has a much stronger willingness to oversteer than the M4 and the M3. And I just love that. Because as a driver, if you want something that is really cheeky, if you want a BMW which has this fun, sporty driving over it, and it maintains that to this day, the other ones feels a bit too much grown up with the four-wheel drive and everything. Of course, you can set that off to just rear-wheel drive when these new ones in the BMW M5 and the M4 and the M3. But this one, pure rear-wheel drive, so it's a bit more eager to drift. And it requires a driver that is determined, focused, wants to have some fun, but also wants to have some battle with it. And I love that. I think that's just BMW M2. I think it's a great package. It's not too big. It looks really, really cool in this new design, a bit boxy, a bit more sharp in the edges. And it's up for discussion of what people think a BMW should look like. So I enjoy this car a lot. I think it's just pure BMW M-car, this one. It's the entrance one, it's the cheekiest one, but it's also the cheapest one, which might be the most enjoyable one in the whole lineup. It's got this pure rear-wheel drive, and it demands a driver that wants to be challenged a bit, but it can just keep up with these bigger M-cars and a lot of other competitors. But as with every car, you need to learn it, and you need to drive it a lot to really get the maximum out of it. And you got so much technique here as well that really helps you along to set your personalized driving style. And that's a lot of value for money. You don't need that much. If you want the manual gearbox, well, 5,700 Swedish crowns more for that. Go for it if you want it, but this one, it's a bit quicker, it's a bit more efficient, very comfortable just to cruise around it, because this feels like a little Grand Tourer, because it's a very quiet, good cabin. So if you enjoyed the M4 and the M3, well, then you will certainly enjoy this one.